report out from the Homeland Security Department saying, hey, we are monitoring extremist right-wing groups to make sure that we don't get any violence from them, especially because they seem to be talking about, oh, they're going to come and take our guns, and some of them are white supremacist groups. And of course, they're not happy to have an African-American president, and they might try to recruit some people with military training, and who has military training, but returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. And of course, at that point, the Republican heads explode, and they think, perfect opportunity for fake outrage. So here's John Boehner, head of the Republicans in the House, saying, to characterize men and women returning home after defending our country as potential terrorists is offensive and unacceptable. Okay, John, take it easy. Nobody's saying they're all potential terrorists. They're saying, hey, let's keep an eye out to make sure that these people with high levels of training do not get recruited into these violent causes. Because I don't know if you remember, there was a guy by the name of Timothy McVeigh who was former military and had training and used that training to blow up the Oklahoma City building, federal building. Okay, so they're saying let's just keep an eye on them. Now, if it was just right-wing groups, well, they might have an issue. It's not, though. This was started, okay, this is great, by the Bush administration. And it was for left-wing groups and right-wing groups. And they were going to monitor both of them, only the extremist groups, to try to figure out what poses a real danger. Now, the Bush administration had other monitoring programs that I'm going to tell you about in a second, right? But this was done at the tail end of the Bush administration, and the Obama Homeland Security Department followed through on that. Now, let's go to Joe Scarborough and see if he understands that distinction. Here he is on MSNBC talking to Mika Brzezinski, of course, and Mike Barnicle as well. Here you go.
The Department of Homeland Security more focused on targeting veterans than on protecting our border in the South, where a war is breaking out, are protecting us from, I don't know, Al-Qaeda? Isn't this interesting? They no longer want to use the term war on terror.
Right.
They don't want to use the war on terror because that makes them feel uncomfortable. But they've got no problem targeting veterans, returning from war. This is perverse.
Well,
and you can't defend it, can you?
No, I'm holding my fire on it because
there's not a war on terror, but there may be a war on veterans.
Well, this report, the Reuters report, they're not targeting veterans. The department is concerned that right-wing extremists will attempt to recruit and radicalize returning veterans in order to boost their violent capabilities. I mean, this is a nutty story.
Yeah, it really. I'm waiting for more. This is Reuters, and we have one source. I need more. I hear what you're saying, and I hear what makes you angry.
Well, it should make you angry.
I'm holding my fire.
It should make Americans angry.
But I hear what you're saying.
What if Dick Cheney decided that he was going to target liberals?
He did! Absolutely right on that. You're absolutely right on that.
Can you imagine what certain newspapers and cable news shows would do if George Bush and Dick Cheney decided to target Democratic loyalists and say that they may be a terror threat?
Yeah, I can imagine it, because it happened. And you know what happened? Nothing. Squat. Jackola. Newsweek ran a story, as did a couple of other outlets, about how the Bush administration was infiltrating Quaker movements and vegans among about 10 other left-leaning groups in case they were going to get violent. Quakers getting violent? I think you missed the point of the Quakers. Really? What were the vegans going to do? Throw tofu at you? Okay? So I love it. Scarborough and Barnicle, they're like, oh, what would they do if they infiltrated left-leaning groups and looked into them? Absolutely nothing, because the media does not get riled up unless the conservatives rile them up. Like, you do this, look at right-wing groups, and the whole media explodes. Fox News and Scarborough and everybody else, how dare they do this? You do it against left-leaning groups. In fact, they released a left-leaning group for this report, okay, that looked at left-leaning and right-leaning. They released it earlier, not a peep, because liberals don't complain about it. And then Scarborough with and by the way, the Quaker and the vegan stuff, they should have complained about. That kind of infiltration and spying on those groups was ridiculous. Now, if you're really looking at extremist groups, whether they're on the left or the right, you know, the crazy guys in the environmental movement that blow up SUV centers, it's car dealerships, etc., or ski lodges, should you look into them? Of course you should look into them. And you should look into the violent ones and the extremist ones on the right wing. But instead, what does Scarborough say? This is a war on veterans. Come on, man.